Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Monday morning, October 24th, 2022. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time. We review strategies, tips, share success stories, provide resources. Ultimately, we're here to help each of you. We really have two different types of professionals that participate in these Zooms, whether it be live or listening to the recording afterwards. We have our white label partners. Our white label partners are the professionals that are out interfacing with small businesses and enrolling them into the programming. We have our regional vice presidents, which are composed of the leadership team, and the regional vice presidents are out building teams of white label partners, of which they earn overrides. There's no cost to enroll in either one of those. If we step back and look at our model, what we understand is that we have a three-pronged mission statement for what you and I do as technical advisors. That's the specific term that describes the occupation that you and I are in together. Number one is we help small business owners improve their financial literacy. You and I know a lot of small business owners want and need capital, but often they lack the knowledge, the understanding, the education to be able to understand how to position their business to access capital. So the first thing that you and I do is help improve financial literacy. That's important, needed, and valuable. Second thing that we do is we help small businesses build lender compliant loan packages. And that ties very directly into what you see on your screen now and our topic today. There's not a change to this, so I don't have some new information about that, but I just wanted to reiterate how the process works, which we'll get to in a moment. So three things that you and I do as technical advisors. Number one, build financial literacy. We discussed that. Number two, building loan packages. We're going to talk more about that in detail momentarily. And then the third is help clients become credible enough to qualify for the funding that they want and that they need. You and I are reasonable enough to understand just because someone says, I want money, doesn't mean that they necessarily qualify for money or that amount of money. In some cases, we have to help them become more credible. And that's what you and I are really good at doing, is helping them improve their credibility on paper. Never doing anything illegal, gray, or fuzzy, but you and I have some unique tools in our tool chest, some arrows in our quiver to be able to help small business owners become credible so they can get funded. With that being said, let's focus in on what we have shared here on the screen today. Hopefully you are seeing the one-pager called Building Your Loan Package. So let's put this in perspective of how the client would normally get this, and then we'll go through the content. So normally we have clients that enroll in the Access to Capital program. There's no upfront cost for the Access to Capital program. It's like a free program. There's no upfront cost for the clients to enroll in Access to Capital. That's important for our white label partners because that makes it really easy to enroll clients. Secondly, is we guarantee every client that enrolls in Access to Capital a capital raise. We guarantee them a capital raise. And it's at least $100,000. Now, some of you are white label partners and you're guaranteeing even more. I know some of you are guaranteeing clients $250,000, $250,000. That's up to you. But regardless of the amount, the client's guaranteed a capital raise. So they know it's not a waste of their time. It's not just shooting in the dark. They will be successful. So with that, normally with the Access to Capital program, our white label partners get the client under agreement, of course, under their paper. In other words, under an agreement between the white label partner and the client. They will get a funding app completed. Both of those will be uploaded into the white label partner Dropbox. They'll notify us. We'll run the app and get the client their first tranche of financing within days. Typically 3 to 5 days, the clients will receive their first tranche or round of funding. And that's great. How much they get is going to be based on their credibility, their circumstances, but we want to get them at least $2,500 because that allows them to be able to pay the white label partner the deposit, and the white label partner can deem that deposit refundable or non-refundable. We guarantee first tranche financing for all clients. So again, they have to participate, of course. They couldn't just sign up and do nothing and get funded. But as long as they participate, no matter of their credit score, no matter of their time in business, they're guaranteed first tranche financing. Now, the amount and composition will vary based upon their credibility. So normally what happens is white label, well, let's start at the top. So normally RVPs, regional vice presidents, recruit white label partners. White label partners then enroll clients, small business owners, into the access to capital. No upfront cost, guaranteed capital raise, no risk to the client. Then we get the first tranche of financing for the client, and that allows them to pay the white label partner the deposit, which could be refundable or non-refundable, depending upon how the white label partner sets up their agreement. Then the normal process, the implementation process, is we take clients through a 4-module curriculum, 1 module a week for 4 weeks. Now, this is award-winning curriculum. This isn't just something that was created in a La Quinta Inn over a weekend. This is literally an award-winning curriculum where the participants, the clients, have participant guides and training PowerPoints and one-on-one professional assistance. The 4 modules are, first module is built around business planning, getting the business plan built. Second, around a number of things, but especially business credit. The third, financial statements. Fourth, banking and money, and pulling it together. This has evolved a bit. Early on, we asked the white label partners to take clients through that curriculum. That didn't often go well. Now, some of you still do it, like Bernard, but in many cases, that didn't go well. So we came back and said, you know what? We will do what we call the mentoring. We will do the mentoring for you. So you as the white label partner, you bring on the client, you get them under contract, you get paid the money, but we will do the back office work. We will be the mentor for the client through that 4-week process. So specifically tied to what you see on the screen today, in module 4, the 4th of the 4 weekly modules, the client receives this communication via email, not as a standalone PDF, but we've recently made a change late last week, so we can make this available as soon as the client wants. So let's compare and contrast 2 options. Option 1, which is the default option, client enrolls, they go through the 4 modules, they're receiving one-on-one mentoring, and we're building out all of this. And so at the end of that 4-week process, then we cover this information, which I'll go through with you in a moment. That's default. However, some of you are coming back and saying, hey, my clients don't really give a shit about that financial literacy. They just need funding. Tom, listen, they just need funding. All they want is funding. Well, then now we're going to go ahead and we do now have a systematic way to go straight to funding. Now, we're not talking about that first tranche. The first tranche stays the same, but once the first tranche has been received and you've been paid your $2,500 plus performance fee, now we're ready to build the loan package for the client. So this, we can send this to the client as soon as in the process as you wish, but by default, it will always go to the client no later than week 4 as part of the normal process, and that's the way it has operated. So let's go through this form. Building your loan package. It is time to gather the documents that we've been working on together, plus others you likely already have to complete your loan package. This is necessary to proceed to funding. So be on alert. If you have a client that signs up and says, I just want my fucking money, but I'm not willing to do anything, what's going to happen? They're going to get no money, because without a loan package, there's no funding, right? Where do we go for their funding? What do they qualify? Are they ready? We don't know. So the loan package is an essential element of funding. You know that. I know that. Unfortunately, some clients don't know that. All right, so if they've been going through the modules, which I referenced briefly before, then these items will probably already be in place. Because what we don't want to do is surprise a client, right? Say, oh, thanks for signing up. By the way, here's what we need. And they're like, what? What just happened? But if they've gone through the modules, which happens by default, but they don't have to, but happens by default, then we will have worked on their business plan and financial projections starting in module 1. We pay for what's called Live Plan, a cloud-based software. We used it when I worked for the SBA. We used it when I was a college professor. It's really good software to build out the business plan and financial projections. So that's one of the things that's needed. Well, you might say, well, why do we need that? Well, it's true, not all sources of capital require a business plan. That is a factual statement. But in general, it's good for a business to have a business plan. And at the most basic element, we need a business plan. You and I need a business plan from each client to understand, number one, how much capital are they looking for? And what are they going to use it for? Called uses of funds. That's stated in the business plan. What we want to avoid is just clients having these conversations with us. So they're just like vomiting all this information that we're somehow supposed to organize and assimilate and keep track of. That doesn't work well, because we're putting together the package to go to the lender. The package has to tell the story to the lender, because there's a high probability that that individual, the client, your client, our collective client, won't ever talk to the lender. It's the package that's going to tell their story. So business plan and financial projections, we help them with that. And that normally happens in module 1, starts happening in module 1. Their personal financial statement, we address that in module 2, called a PFS, personal financial statement. We use the SBA form 413. And then also making sure that they have their key person policy set up. And we just talked about this on Friday, I believe it was Thursday or Friday of last week. Now, my point is, if they've gone through the normal way through the modules, then this all makes sense. If they're just wanting to hit the fund button, fund me, fund me, fund me, in other words, they don't want to go through the modules, then of course, they've not given us the opportunity to educate them and help them in building these out. But they may already have it. And some of you are frequently bringing clients on that already have their documentation. Additionally, there are support documents that are requested. Now, worry not, we clarify, it's not all or nothing. We're asking the client to provide what they have. We're not asking them to incur costs, spend money, do things that they don't want to do, or they don't have time to do, or they don't have money to do. We just need to gather what they have to build their loan package, because we don't know. We, meaning you and I. You and I don't know what the client has and what they don't have. It's like if you and I are going to make dinner tonight. It's Monday night on this live recording, of course. Today's Monday, I should say. Monday Night Football. So let's say you and I are going to get together and watch Monday Night Football together. Well, what are we going to make for dinner? We'd probably go over to the refrigerator, open it up, look in there, see what ingredients. Are we going to make pizza? We going to make wings? What is it we're going to make? Well, it's probably based upon the ingredients we have. Otherwise, we have to go get the ingredients, of course. So we are not asking them to go to the grocery store and go buy pepperoni for the pizza, but we do need to take a bit of an inventory of what they do have, because that's going to influence the types of funding that they're well suited for. So let's go through the list. Personal income taxes for the past 3 years. Now you see a little asterisk. What's that all about? Well, any owner of the business with 20% or more ownership, anything with an asterisk, we should get for everyone that owns 20% or more. Now, let's say you have someone that says, well, I just got out of jail. I've not filed taxes in several years. Well, then don't provide it, right? We're saying if you have these things, provide them. If you don't have them, we're not asking you to pull it out of an orifice or to make it up or lie, cheat, or steal. We're just saying if you have it, provide it. And if you don't have it, then you won't provide it, and we'll see where we're at. Now, as far as providing it, we're going to provide them a Dropbox, which we'll get to the instructions of how to submit here in a few minutes. We do not want them just emailing all these documents to you or us. Okay, moving on. So personal income tax returns, business income tax returns. And you'll get people and you'll want to bang your head against the wall. They'll say, well, I don't have that. I just started my business. Well, obviously you wouldn't have tax returns for the past 3 years if your business wasn't around. We understand that. No one's asking for a miracle, but we're just saying if it's applicable, then provide it, right? Interim balance sheet and income statement. And we cover this material in module 3, by the way, and we can assist them with that if they need help. Personal bank statements, and again, you see the asterisk, meaning for each owner of 20% or more. Business bank statements for the past 3 months, again, if applicable. Let's say they formed their business yesterday, which was a Sunday, of course, as of this live recording, but ignoring the details. If they just formed the business, oh, I haven't had a business bank account for 3 months. Well, then you wouldn't provide it, right? Maybe you've been open for 2 months, maybe you've been open for 1 month. Or if you're brand new, then there are no bank statements. You and I understand that. We're not trying to create barriers, but we're going through and getting a data set that is a universal request, and then the individual participant will have to filter out what they don't have. Copy of driver's license, if they have a commercial lease for their buildings. In other words, if they have a landlord and they're paying rent, not a mortgage, if they have that. Business licenses, if applicable. Their articles of incorporation or their original formation documents. Number 10 is important. Again, what you and I know, well, especially you know so much more than most people, and you know more probably than me. So what happens is people make false assumptions. They say, well, I know what my credit score is. Do you? Yeah, I know what my credit score is. Well, do you? Because we're talking about getting business funding. So when we talk about credit, we're worried about primarily the FICO SBSS score. And they're like, well, what the hell is that? Well, we cover that in module 2, but the bottom line is that is a different algorithm, because you take Collis is on here. Collis has got great credit, but Collis has got different types of credit. He's got mortgage credit to get a home. He's got auto credit to get an auto loan. He's got credit card credit to get credit cards, revolving accounts. There's different credit scoring algorithms. There's about approximately 50 different algorithms. The one that you and I care about here is what? Their FICO SBSS, because it's relevant to business funding, right? And then a resume or bio. This is an interesting one. We're not trying to help them go get a job down at Walgreens, but for some, and again, remember what's true. Not all sources of capital, not all funding sources require all of this. We're not saying that. It's not all or nothing, but we need to see what we do have to figure out where we should go. Well, some sources of funding, to no surprise, would like to know, are you qualified to run this business that you're wanting to borrow a ton of money for? And if we can't document that on paper, that doesn't mean we can't get funding, but it certainly could alter where we're going to go. The example I've given, and I'm kind of tired of this example, but I'll be consistent. When I used to work for the SBA a few years ago, food trucks were really becoming popular. So we had lots of people coming in and want to borrow money for a food truck or a food trailer. We'll just call them food trucks generically. And it's like, well, great. Have you owned a food truck before? No. Okay. Have you ever worked in a restaurant or owned or worked in a restaurant before? No. So you can start to see, wow, if you and I took that file to some types of lenders that would say, wow, this person is starting a completely new career that they have no education or experience in, what would you think? Kind of risky. So does that prevent us from getting food trucks for people that don't have that background? No. But does it influence where we go get the funding? Absolutely. All right, so we talked about the asterisk already. When these files are being created, we expect the client to save them in a PDF format not JPEGs or GIFs or pictures or other formats, should be PDFs. And then of course the file name should be appropriately labeled. As I mentioned before, it is not all or nothing. It's not all or nothing. We're not telling, and if you take it away from this, you shouldn't even be working with us because you're not listening. We're not saying, oh, you have to have all of this or you can't get funding. I didn't say that. I don't mean that. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying, but we do need to figure out what they do have to figure out what type of funding they qualify for. And then if we need to fill in some gaps or help them with areas, we can, of course. All right, and so the instructions, we send this out to, well, again, so these instructions automatically go to clients when they receive module 4. It's embedded in that sequence and has been forever and a day. No change to that. But the point for you is if you have a client, like Alfred will probably bring on 5 or 6 new clients this week. Alfred might have some of those clients that just say, hey, I don't want to go through the 4-week curriculum, or I don't want to wait for funding to go through that. That's 28 days out. I want to go to funding now. And so then Alfred could let us know. We will send them this in an Adobe and we'll copy you on it. So it goes to the client, it's date stamped that they've received it, you're copied on it, and all they're asked to do is to sign it. Now, of course, this is blank here, but it'll go to them in Adobe and it'll ask them to sign it. And obviously what it's doing is putting them, it sounds too legal, but putting them on notice. Well, great. We need to get the documents that you do have, pull them together. Once you have them pulled together, email us to let us know that you're ready. And then we're going to set up a Dropbox folder for them. And if they ever need assistance, they should never get frustrated or concerned. They can always schedule a call. Once we have the data set, then we can go ahead and move forward with the capital match. The capital match is whereby our funding committee reviews the information, and then we put together the plan to go forward. It's just like if you and I wanted to take a trip together. Well, where are we going? We have to decide where we're going before we can figure out what would the airfare be, how long is it going to take, and so forth. And so for the capital raise, you know, the client may know, I want $1 million. Damn it, I just want $1 million. I just want $1 million. Well, we've got to figure out where that's going to come from. And the method in which that we do that is by going through either the 4 modules and then finishing with this data request, or for clients like Alfred's that just want to go directly to funding, then we can send them this Adobe, copy you, they are aware of it, they pull them together, they email us, we set up a Dropbox, and then we're able to create the capital raise strategy. We do have a slight, or not slight, but a small acknowledgement that we ask of the client. We ask the client to sign that they are receiving this request to complete their loan package. It lets them know if they fail to promptly comply with this, it's considered a lack of participation. Why does that matter to you? So we've got 215 people on. So Alfred and Andre and Bernard and Bruce, Collis, DeWoo, Doug, Jeanette, Kat, Lon, Linda, Pauline, Quincy, Rosa, Terrence, and others. Why do you think that this statement is important to be on this form? Can anyone put into the Q&A of Zoom, kind of like chat, why you think that's important? And the Pajama Mama's on, she's got it exactly right. What Pajama Mama states is that if the client doesn't participate, then they are breaching their agreement. And if they breach their agreement with you, then you have no further obligations, but they still are responsible for paying you. And so we don't want something for nothing, but, and Doug hit it right on the nail on the head. They're breaching their contract if they don't make a good faith effort to participate. We've had clients, and it doesn't happen very often, but you know as well as I do, some people are foolish Some are manipulative, some seem almost crazy. I'm not saying most people, but there's some people like that. And so once in a while you have someone that says, well, you never got me any funding. This is a scam. It's like, dude, you never provided us the information we needed. We don't know it. We'd be better off to go take a dart and throw it blindly at a dartboard, right? You've got to provide us the data set or there won't be any funding. Now, again, remember the first tranche of financing is a very simplified data set. Now we're talking about the larger business funding. But that's right. We will not deliver. We will not give them any help. We don't give them funding, but we will not help them get any funding if they don't participate, because it's impossible. It's like, well, I never got my college degree. Well, you never went to class. Well, I didn't get my college degree. You never took a test. I didn't get my college degree. You never enrolled in a class. So this is ultimately what's needed. My preference is to take the clients through the 4 weekly modules because we're building financial literacy. We're building a relationship. They understand what these things are and why they're important. And then we end up collecting them. But again, for those of you like Alfred that have clients that just want to go to funding once they've paid the deposit to you, then just let us know. We can send this to them, copy you, and we can go straight to funding without the 28-day delay. So with that being said, let me open it up for questions, comments, concerns. All right. Let's see, we have quite a few responses. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns on this? So our goal today was to make it clear to you the data set that we ask from the client by default in module 4. However, we can accelerate that to upfront where they don't have, well, we're going to still provide them the modules. We believe that's valuable. So we're still going to set them up so they get module 1, and then 7 days later, they automatically get module 2 and 3, 7 days later, and 4, 7 days after that. We want to deliver that financial literacy, but if they don't want to engage in it, they don't have to. If they don't want to wait to go through that, they don't have to. You would just simply let us know, email us at where? Support at Business Paralegal Corp, and say, hey, send a building your loan package, Dobie, to Joe or Susie or Timmy or whomever you want us to send it to. Does anyone have questions on the list, why we do it, how we do it? All right, and so Quincy's asking a good question about updates. So as a white label partner, you probably want to keep track of your client, because each of your clients are going to fall into one of 2 categories. Either they're going through the 4 modules, or they want to go right into the loan package. So you would know that, because we're going to take them through the 4 modules. It's only if you tell us to go straight to the loan package that we would do so. So you would know that. You would be letting us know, so there's no surprises. So if it's scenario 1 where they're going through the 4 weekly modules, then you know we're 28 days away from finishing up the data collection for the loan package, and so you can kind of mark on your calendar automatically 30 days from now. Let's see where we're at, because there wouldn't be much for updates in that 30 days from your perspective, because we're doing all the work, taking them through the modules, gathering data, educating them. In scenario 2, where you have told us, hey, let's go ahead and build their loan package now, then in that case, you will be copied when this Adobe goes out. It'll come from Support at Business Paralegal. You'll be automatically copied when they've signed it here, because Adobe will give you a copy of it after they've signed it. We will then set up their Dropbox folder, as I mentioned. And then once they have uploaded whatever they do have, it's not all or nothing. We said that several times. Once they've uploaded that, then we'll be able to go ahead and get that in front of our funding committee, which is referenced here. Typically, our funding committee reviews files twice a week, normally Wednesday evenings and Saturday mornings. It can vary, but normally. So once we get the data set from a client, then the funding committee can review, put together what we call the capital match, figure out, in other words, where should the funding come from. The funding committee also may come back and make recommendations of additional data that's needed. Because what I mentioned here, it's not all or nothing. They don't have to have everything. We're not going to hold up unnecessarily, but it may be that what they've provided is inadequate. Therefore, we may have to come back and ask them for something that is missing. So for example, let's say the business, and we had a recent example of this client named Curtis. Curtis's business has been open for a while. I'll just leave it generic, a while. And we're like, okay, Curtis, it doesn't look like we have your 3 most recent business bank statements. It's like, well, my cash flow was down. He's a truck driver. My cash flow was down last month because my truck was down. Well, that doesn't matter. We can't only put together good information. We got to put together accurate information. So we need, as of now, we're in October, so the most recent complete month is September. Curtis, we need your September bank statement. That's part of the analysis for the capital match. So what happens with the funding committee is the question. We will either do one of two things, either make recommendation for the funding plan for the client, or if need be, come back and say, hey, there's something that's missing that's integral based upon the path we're looking at. But again, we want to get the clients funded as quickly and as painlessly as possible. That's good for you, that's good for them, that's good for us. All right, so hopefully that answered your question, Quincy. So Quincy's question is, how does he know status? And the answer was, it depends upon which of the 2 scenarios the client's going through. If it's scenario 1, where they're going through the 4 weekly modules, then we're 30 days out from being ready to build a loan package and having a funding status. If it's scenario 2, where you're wanting them to go directly to build a loan package out, then of course you'll know those key milestones. This goes out to them, they sign it via Adobe, comes back, they pull together the documents, we upload it in Dropbox, and then it goes to the funding committee. But we should each be having weekly calls, right? Each of you that are white label partners and or RVPs, we should have a weekly call. And so we should be able to discuss your clients each week on our weekly call. Dawood asked a good question regarding the 4 modules. So he's asking, when do the 4 modules begin? The 4 modules typically will begin once they have paid you the deposit. Again, you can make the deposit refundable or non-refundable, but once they've paid you the deposit, then we start building the loan package, which the normal way is 4 modules to build a loan package. The accelerated is skip the modules and just go right to this. Let me know if that didn't answer your question. Quincy asked a really good question of, once they have completed the loan package, it's gone to the funding committee, how long does it take to get funding? And there's not a general answer to that, right? We had a client that we did get funding, is a little over 8 million for building a soccer park, indoor and outdoor, kind of a sports facility, if you will, a big regional draw. Well, that was very complicated. And so that process extended for about 18 months because we had to buy the property and get all the drawings and get all the bids, and then the money was dispersed out over time. So the timing for the funding will vary based upon the client's circumstances, right? And so what we always have to avoid, people sometimes don't know what to ask. And so they'll ask you questions that really aren't very good questions, but they don't know they're not a good question. That's all they know to ask. So typically, Quincy, if I were asked that, what I would tell them is, we will get you your first tranche of financing normally in 3 to 5 days. Then we'll build out your loan package, create a plan, and then go to funding. So if you give them enough of an answer, it'll usually satiate them. And so I would say 3 to 5 days for the first tranche. because that's something more that we can control versus what if they come to you and they say, well, I heard that the Phoenix Suns is up for sale and I need to pull together $4 billion to make a qualifying bid to the NBA to buy the Phoenix Suns. How long will it take? Like, holy Moses, Batman. We've got to figure out how credible they are and collect data before we could even figure that out. All right, so Doug asked in scenario 2, so regardless of scenario 1 or 2 that I described, there is a deposit. We recommend it be refundable, but you may make it refundable or non-refundable, and that is specifically the loan package fee. And so regardless if they go through the 4 modules or go directly to this, it's the same. That's right, Doug. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns on this topic? So this really isn't something new in the sense this is the standard data set that we've collected from clients forever and a day. Normally, the request goes to them embedded as part of module 4, which we call banking and money. If you've not gone through those 4 modules, you really should. But we are now expressing a willingness and intent and ability to take individuals directly into the loan packaging process more directly. This is specifically the document that they'll receive if you tell us to send it to them. Take Bruce, for example. Bruce is a machine. He's one of our top 10 referral partners. He was number 1 for a bit, but he's still in the top 10. And so this is what we're doing for all of his clients now, because we know that's really what he expects. So he doesn't even have to let us know on each one. We know that this is the accelerated process for his clients. All right. If there's any other questions, concerns that you have, let us know. Please, please, please be sure to schedule your weekly calls, our one-on-ones. That allows us to make sure that we're supporting you, to make sure you're successful. If you're a white label partner and you didn't make $25,000 last week, and if you don't feel confident in making $25,000 this week, then we failed each other. We've ultimately failed each other. So that's why it's so important that we have our weekly calls. We create a plan, we execute the plan. The opportunity's there. All right, well, thanks everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a good day.